Hi, welcome back to Crime Time 911. It was a cold November night in Victoria, British Columbia. Emma Fillipoff was last seen barefoot, confused, and alone outside. Then she vanished without a trace. No struggle, no signs, no answers. Just a haunting trail of contradictions, eerie sightings, and a mother's desperate search that continues to this day. Who was Emma really running from? And why did she leave behind everything? This is not just another missing person case. This is the story of Emma Fillipoff, and once you hear it, you won't forget her name. Emma was born on January 6, 1986, in Perth, Ontario, to James and Shelley. She was described as a shy, sensitive child. She even enjoyed dance class and performing. She was also very different from her siblings, who were more outgoing and athletic. Emma had always wanted to live out west, and in the fall of 2011, she made that dream come true by moving to Victoria, BC. She was 25 years old at the time and moved out west without having a place to live or even a job lined up. She figured she would sort everything out once she got there. When she first arrived in BC, she lived with one of her childhood friends for a few months before moving into her own unit in the same building that winter. Emma enjoyed spending time with people of the homeless community, as well as boat owners and artists at the inner harbor. She spent time meditating in the sun and reading in the children's section of the library. The friends and acquaintances Emma made would describe her as free-spirited, creative, adventurous, giving, soft-spoken, private, trusting, and so much more. But what stuck out to me was that she was described as being brave for sleeping alone in the woods. But we'll get to that a little later. She was also a skilled chef, photographer, and artist, even keeping journals and writing a blog. She was also known for her aversion to convention, social media, and cell phones. It's said that she enjoyed drinking and socializing with her friends. She always listened to others when needed. However, she was not open to sharing her own thoughts or struggles. Emma took a job as a barista in a cafe. However, she didn't end up staying there very long. She would eventually live a transient lifestyle. She moved in with another friend for a while, lived at a hotel where she worked cleaning rooms, staying on boats, sleeping out in the woods, and even sleeping in trees. She also stayed in the attic of a woman's shelter between February and November of 2012, and typically she would stay there for at least 1 month at a time. Eventually, she would start a seasonal job at a seafood eatery called Redfish Bluefish. She worked there until October 31st, 2012, and was expected to return in February 2013. So at this point, it's clear to me that she was starting to go down a potentially unstable path, bouncing from one living condition to the next, even staying out in the woods apparently by herself, which is crazy to me. I don't even like camping in a tent, let alone sleeping out in the wilderness completely by myself. Um, just, these kind of things are not something that a lot of people typically do. Emma would keep in contact with her family back in Ontario through cryptic, poetic, and upbeat emails, and would make phone calls to them on holidays. Her family had no idea she had been living in a shelter. Even though many in Victoria were attracted to Emma due to her beauty and friendly nature, she only dated one person that year. The relationship would only last a few months, and it ended mutually as well as on a positive note. By the end of the summer of 2012, Emma was interested in a more pure lifestyle. This is when she quit binge drinking, quit smoking, stopped drinking coffee, and even cut out sugar. There are conflicted stories about whether or not Emma smoked green. Some would say she occasionally smoked it, while others would report that she never touched any type of substance. Emma was a vegan and began to experiment with different foods such as rice, popcorn, and fish. By the end of the summer, it's reported that Emma was eating less food and drinking large amounts of water every day. A friend had noticed that Emma was growing extremely thin and became monk-like when it came to her social and eating habits. She had apparently had troubles determining how to adapt to the changing seasons, and she had no idea what she was going to do with herself in the upcoming winter months. Eventually, she began to distance herself from others, and she also became fearful and paranoid. So here are other red flags. Her eating habits changed in an unhealthy way, withdrawing from others, acting paranoid. I would definitely be trying to figure out what was going on with Emma and see what I could do to help. These are for sure signs of a potential mental health concern. Sometime Around June or July of 2012, Emma had bought a van intending to live in it while traveling around the island. After Emma had moved out of her apartment, she ended up putting all of her personal belongings in storage. When she was able to move her things out from her storage unit into her van, she was reportedly very happy. She looked forward to having the independence the van would provide for her. Emma would express her desire to travel to many people. In November 2012, she told her friend about her plans to leave Victoria and head to Salt Spring Island or Tofino, BC. Other friends reported that she also had plans to sail on a boat to Mexico, going to San Juan with a guy she hardly knew, or moving to places like California or Costa Rica. She wanted to travel to Japan with her dad, live off the grid somewhere in the woods, visit her aunt in Lanceville, BC, and then surprising her family by heading back home to Perth, Ontario. On November 20th, Emma was seen on video surveillance at the YMCA. She can be seen entering and exiting the building 4 times within a 14-minute period. It appears as though she's peeking out from behind the glass doors nervously, or like she's hiding from someone or something. The last time she exits the building, she turns to the right. On November 21st, she makes arrangements to have a tow truck driver pick her up from the Sandy Merriman shelter and head to Souk, BC to tow her van back to the 700 block of Burdett Avenue in Victoria. She is reportedly in good spirits during the ride with the tow truck driver and tells him about her plans to surprise her family by moving back home to Ontario. November 23rd, Emma calls her mom, Shelley, around midnight. She's in tears and tells her mom she wants to come home. It's unusual for Emma to reach out for help, so Shelley assures Emma that she will make all the necessary arrangements for her to fly home immediately. Emma wouldn't tell her mom what was bothering her, but she does reassure her mom that she is safe. November 24th, Emma tells her mom that she will stay and figure things out on her own. Even though Shelley knows something is not right and is worried, she decides to respect her daughter's wishes and cancels the flight. Later on that same night, Emma would call her mom again, telling her she wants to come home. She tells her mom she is overwhelmed and needs her to come to Victoria to help her pack up her things. Shelley immediately books a flight. November 25th, Emma changes her mind again. She calls her mom to tell her about her change of plans, and this time Emma sounds calm and confident. However, sadness is still heard in her voice. Even though Shelley once again agrees not to come, she does not unpack her bags. So at this point, adult, child, or not, I would be going out there either way. It's clear that Emma is in some sort of distress, whether it's real or mental, and I would definitely need to go to my child to see what was going on and what I could do to help them. I would be so worried that I wouldn't be able to eat, sleep, or even function without knowing that my child was okay. Due to parking enforcement, Emma has to make arrangements to have her van towed from Burdett Avenue to a parking lot at the Chateau Victoria Hotel. Staff from the Chateau Victoria would put a notice on Emma's van to have it towed from the lot. On November 27th, Shelley calls the number that Emma had been calling her from. She had thought that Sandy Merriman was a friend of Emma's. When she speaks with staff member at the shelter, she is shocked to learn that Emma has been living in a women's shelter. Later that night, Emma calls her mom back. She is in tears again, asking her to come get her. Shelley makes arrangements to fly out to Victoria the next day. November 28th, early in the morning, Emma again calls Shelley and changes her mind about her coming out to Victoria. Even though Shelley tells Emma she won't go, she decides to take the first flight out that afternoon. Later that morning, Emma heads to the Chateau Victoria, and when she sees the notice on her van, she asks the staff for one more day to move her van, which they allow. After this, Emma is seen on video surveillance at a 7-Eleven located at the corner of Douglas and Humboldt Streets, where she uses her debit card to purchase a $200 prepaid credit card. On the video, she is seen wearing a beige winter jacket, camouflage pants. She has several bags hanging over her shoulder. Before leaving the store, she looks at the doors nervously. In the late morning, a friend of Emma's, Julian Howard, sees her on Pandora Street. He gets off the bus he had been on a few stops early so that he could talk to Emma. He sees her from the back and side but cannot see her face. He decides to go register his health card as he had planned. When he returns, Emma is still in the same spot, standing motionless. He steps in front of her and asks if she needs any help, but Emma just slowly shakes her head no. He stands there watching her for a short time before he decides that he is done with Emma because she won't accept help when offered. All right, so I understand getting frustrated sometimes when you're offering people for help over and over and over again, but they're refusing. But there are certain circumstances, such as this one, where I feel that even though she's refusing the help, she clearly needs the help. So at the very least, I would have gone ahead and, um, called 911 or done something to try to get her the help she so clearly needed. Um, Not just abandon her. I really think that that is a really crappy thing for her friend to do. And that's, again, just my personal opinion. In the early afternoon, still on November 28th, Emma is seen by another friend near a soup kitchen on Pandora Street. She had her hair tucked into her jacket, and she told her friend she wasn't feeling well at all and couldn't talk. When the friend asks if she needed a hug, she recoils with a horrified look on her face, which is completely out of character for her. Later that afternoon, a witness sees Emma walking slowly down Pandora Street. She has a vacant look in her eyes. She is no longer wearing a hat, and her hair looked like it had just been washed. The witness would later report the sighting to police. Two more people see Emma on Douglas Street. These two were so concerned by Emma's behavior of walking back and forth in the street, looking lost and confused, that they also called 911. Someone else reports seeing Emma walking downtown with an older man at that same afternoon. However, no description of the man was provided. There are several more sightings of Emma throughout the rest of the afternoon into the evening of November 28th. At approximately 6:15 p.m., Dennis Quay, who was an acquaintance of Emma's, reports seeing her standing barefoot on a corner looking as though she was disoriented and paranoid, and like she was unable to cross the street. When Dennis asks Emma if she is looking for someone or if she's being followed, she doesn't really say anything and continues to look around. She asks Dennis to walk with her, but his questioning made her uncomfortable, so she decides to walk on her own. Dennis would then call the police and waits inside a restaurant until they arrive. When he sees police speaking with Emma, he leaves thinking that she is safe with them. Almost 20 minutes later, police find Emma barefoot by the Empress Hotel. Two officers assess her for 45 minutes. According to the police report, Emma only provides one-worded answers or just nods. After 30 minutes, she would provide her name to the police, but it was only at their insistence. She refused to put her shoes on and would tell police that she had plans to meet up with a friend. By 8 p.m., police come to the conclusion that Emma was not a threat to herself or others and watch her walk away. This was the last confirmed sighting of Emma. The identities of these two officers are protected by privacy laws, and the details of the conversation has not been released. So I understand that Emma was most likely not a threat to others, and maybe she wasn't even a threat to herself, but I feel like the police should have taken her to a hospital for observation at the very least. I feel like a doctor could have held her in the hospital and have her assessed by a counselor or a psychiatrist. She was clearly having some sort of a mental health issue. I also feel like the officers' names were placed under the privacy laws to protect them because they did not take her situation seriously and they shouldn't have allowed her to go off on her own. Again, this is my personal opinion. I really don't know why their identities are protected, but something about that interaction just seems fishy. At 11 p.m., Shelley arrives at the shelter and discovers that Emma did not claim her bed that night. The shelter would call police immediately to report her as a missing person. Shortly after 12 a.m., police arrived at the shelter and Emma is officially declared a missing person. The next day, police locate Emma's van in the lot of a towing company and they tow it back to their police yard. The van contains all of Emma's belongings, including her passport. Shelley visits the shelter at the beginning of each shift change and speaks to the staff. She was told that Emma had become depressed, maybe even having the potential of self-harming, as well as growing more and more erratic, paranoid, and fearful within the 2 weeks leading up to her disappearance. Apparently, Emma had rearranged the furniture outside of the shelter, telling staff that the objects had been talking to her. She also began to throw away or donate her personal belongings. Staff at the shelter had contacted the police weeks prior. However, the police just told them to contact them again if Emma's condition persists or got worse. But they never did call the police again. So again, I feel like the shelter staff failed Emma. They clearly recognized that something wasn't right and they knew she was depressed. Why wouldn't they contact the police a second, third, fourth, or however many times it would take for them to get the help that she so clearly needed? This is the biggest issue when it comes to mental health. People end up brushing the issues under the rug and ignoring it. I've said it before and I'll say it a million times more if I have to. Mental health is just as important as physical health. As someone who has been diagnosed with anxiety and depression, it really pisses me off to hear about people who are failed by the people who are supposed to care about them or whose job it is to help those in need. On December 2nd, 2012, a witness reported that they had a strange encounter with someone they thought was Emma at the Inner Harbor after dark. This person allegedly told them to remember the name Emma Fillipoff and asked them to repeat the name 3 times. On December 5th at 11:17 a.m., the prepaid credit card that Emma had bought on November 18th is flagged for use at a Petro-Canada station on Sook Road. The man who was caught using the card is questioned by the police. He was also given a polygraph test and then was cleared by police. Allegedly, this man found the card on the side of the road near the Juan de Luca Recreation Center and Galloping Goose Trail. But he would later call Shelley 3 different times to explain how he was drinking on a daily basis at the time and was too drunk that night to remember where he found the card. The card was still sealed, and he is certain he waited about a week before he used it to purchase a cigarette. Before Emma's disappearance, there had been warning signs. Emma's journal revealed that she had been privately suffering with mental health issues since she was about 11 years old. Like most who suffer with mental illness, Emma kept her thoughts and feelings to herself and hid it from her family and friends. Back in the winter of 2011, a childhood friend and roommate of Emma's noticed warning signs when she saw Emma had often arranged patterns using various objects such as feathers, shells, rocks, or food. This was an obsessive act. On occasion, Emma would insist that others participate in her compulsive rituals. The friend woke up one night to find Emma outside in a euphoric state. She contacted Emma's father, James, out of concern for her. When Emma found out that her friend had contacted her dad, she was very upset, and she declined her father's offer to fly her home, insisting she would be fine on her own. Since Emma's parents were divorced, Shelley was not aware of this incident. She would later insist that if she had known about it, she would have flown out immediately. Although I'm kind of skeptical to know on whether or not she would actually fly out immediately, considering she had canceled her flight 2-3 times before when Emma kept telling her she wanted her to come, don't come, don't come. So I'm not sure if her mom would have actually come out at that time. Emma had studied culinary arts in Campbell River, BC back in 2008-2009. At that time, she had felt harassed by someone she had a bad experience with while at school, and apparently had been experiencing ongoing stress related to this incident. So was this person who she felt harassed by back then trying to make contact with her again? Or was she just experiencing PTSD over the incident? Emma would tell her roommate that she felt the need to avoid social situations where she had to interact with men. Even though Emma had initially been friendly, playful, and sociable when she first arrived in Victoria, by early November 2012, she had started to become distant, and her friend would notice considerable change in her behavior as well as her personality. She began turning down invitations to go on adventures, canceled a trip to Mexico at the last minute, and generally appeared to be frightened to go anywhere that wasn't the pier or the shelter. Approximately 2 weeks before Emma's disappearance, a friend had driven by the shelter and saw Emma standing motionless, looking cold and wet, staring at a murder of crows that had been nearby. This is around the time that the staff and residents at the shelter started noticing the signs of Emma's depression and paranoia. So many chances to get Emma the help that she so clearly needed, and yet everyone just continued to push it aside and either pretend like she was okay, or maybe they didn't know how to get her help. I don't know. All I know is that it is clear that she was going through something and someone should have tried to get her help. After Emma's disappearance, her friends, family, as well as many volunteers began to search Victoria in the communities of Vancouver Island. This included the trails, parks, and smaller islands as well. Eventually, the search area was widened to include the mainland of BC and other locations across Canada and the US, anywhere sightings were reported, although most sightings just turned out to be women who resembled Emma. The Victoria PD sent out a dive team to search the Victoria Inner Harbor, but they found nothing. A private investigator would work on the case for a year without any results. Multiple psychics and mediums provided their input, and hundreds of people circulated posters and shared links, clues, and ideas. In 2014, CBC's The Fifth Estate would launch a Finding Emma campaign on social media platforms as well as national television. The team of experts who reviewed the case consisted of an active homicide investigator, a forensic psychologist, and a criminologist. Even though a $25,000 reward was offered, there have been no confirmed sightings of Emma. A rumor started to go around amongst her friends that Emma was hitchhiking up and down the island and was doing well. Several people would report that the missing person posters of Emma had been torn down in the downtown east side. Someone in the area thought they saw Emma ripping down her own posters. Staff at a hunting and fishing store would report that a woman who resembled Emma had asked them how to disappear. She told them that she had a stalker who had followed her from Ontario to Victoria and then to Vancouver. Someone who goes by many aliases online described Emma as a junkie, and she was living in the downtown east side. He would brag about how he was standing next to her while she tore down her own posters, but refused to provide any more details and would express that he had no interest in the reward money. So this is the thing about missing person cases. There are so many people who will try to get their 15 minutes of fame by making up stories, interactions, and or sightings of the missing people, or try to indicate someone who was involved in the disappearance of that particular person. I feel like almost anyone would be interested in the reward money, and if they truly weren't, I feel like they would provide as much detail as possible to help police find the person if they did actually know where they were. In early 2014, there was a sighting of a woman who matched Emma's description hitchhiking near the Fillipoff family farm near Highway 3 in Nelson, BC. There was another sighting in Slocan Valley, which was about 30 minutes away, where another Fillipoff family member had lived. Even though the RCMP followed up, the sightings were not confirmed. May 2014, in Gaston, BC, on surveillance in a clothing store, an agitated man was captured. He had a crumpled up missing persons poster of Emma. The man would claim that Emma was his girlfriend and that she just wanted to be left alone. Even though there was grainy video evidence of a man in a green shirt with a noticeable limp, with flame tattoos on his arm, no one has come forward with information, and the police have not been able to identify him. In 2016, one of Emma's friends would report seeing her sleeping on the steps of Francophone Centre in Kelowna, BC. Again, after local police followed up on this report, nothing had been confirmed. In 2018, a witness would come forward stating that on November 29th at about 5 a.m., he saw a young woman who had been darting back and forth on the side of the road. He stated that she appeared to be in distress, so he pulled over and she got into his vehicle. This woman had been soaking wet and had no shoes on. The woman asked the man to take her to Colwood so she could visit a friend, but not wanting to be late for his first week of training at a new job, he told her he could only bring her close to Colwood. Even though she instantly became calm and relaxed while in the car, as soon as he dropped her off at a 24-hour gas station, she began to act paranoid as soon as she exited his vehicle. He states that he didn't realize who the woman was until 6 years later. This is when he contacted the Victoria PD, who had advised him to contact Crime Stoppers. After he realized that there was no follow-up on this tip, he would reach out to Shelley and Kimberly Borge, who had been a longtime advocate in the search for Emma. In April 2023, a forensic artist, Hugh Morrison, reached out to Shelley and Kimberly to offer them assistance with the investigation. Over a few weeks, he worked closely with Shelley and Kimberly to create a new composite sketch of Emma. This case is still open and Emma has not yet been found. If you or anyone you know has information about this case, please contact Crime Stoppers or the Victoria Police Department non-emergency line. Do you think Emma was abducted? Was she running from someone or something? What do you think might have happened? Don't forget to follow, like, and share this episode. It helps more people discover these stories and keeps the conversation going. Thanks for listening to Crime Time 911. Stay safe, stay curious, and remember to always trust your gut.